Hi everyone, I am Monica Black and I am discovering that this assignment is a lot tougher than I thought it would be. In the spirit of Halloween, I am going to attempt a Halloween story. The prop that I will be using is this small skeletal item which I will be using today as a monkey's paw. So here we go, my prop story is the age-old The Monkey's Paw. Without the night was cold and wet, but in a small house in a village, the blinds were drawn and a fire burned brightly. The White family and their friend, Sergeant Major Morris, were engaging in a conversation about things past and adventures to come when Mr. White asked his friend, "Say, Morris, what is it you were telling me the other day, that story about, say, a monkey's paw?" Morris responded, "Monkey's paw? You don't want to hear that old story again." Mrs. White leaned forward eagerly and said, "Why, a monkey's paw? What of it?" Major Morris goes into his pocket and he pulls out this shriveled old item which looks like a grisly talisman of a monkey's paw. He tells them that the monkey's paw is supposed to be magic. Whoever holds this monkey's paw is granted 3 wishes, but he warns them that people who use the monkey's paw have nothing but heartache to come as a result of them. He reminds them that he knew one guy that used the paw and he could not remember what the first 2 wishes were, but he remembered that the 3rd wish was for death. The White family did not heed his advice. They bid him adieu, and the next day they get up and they're eating breakfast, and Mr. White says, "I wonder if there's any truth to that monkey's paw." His wife says, "Why, whatever would we wish for? We have everything that we need here." He responded, "You know what? It would be a lot easier if we had money to clear the note on the house." And they joked about it. Mr. White took out the monkey's paw. He held it up, and half joking, but half wishing that the magic was true, he said, "I wish we had 200 pounds to clear the house." And much to his surprise, the monkey's paw seemed to come alive in his hand. He tried to tell his son and his wife about the magic of the monkey's paw, but they just laughed. "Ha ha, oh man, you're crazy." And the family went on about their way. Later that day, the son went to work at a factory. That evening, his mother was expecting him to return. She's preparing his dinner when she looks out of the window and she notices someone, some stranger, not her son, approaching the sidewalk and the door. The stranger gets to the door. He hesitates and finally he knocks on the door. Mrs. White opens the door. She greets the stranger and she lets him in. She notices that he has a very distraught look on his face, and finally he clears his throat and he says, "Mrs. White, I'm so sorry, but I have terrible news. Your son has been in an awful accident." "Accident, you say? He's not in any pain, is he?" "Pain? No, ma'am, I'm sorry to report that your son was crushed in the machinery and he has died." "Oh no." Mrs. White is so upset. Her husband comes in. He's upset. The stranger at the door says to them, "This company wishes to admit no fault in this accident, but they did want to give you a token and let you know they're very sorry for everything that has happened." And he presented them with a check. The stranger leaves. Mr. White says to his wife, How much is the check?" She opens it and says, "It's 200 pounds. The days that follow were sad and solitary. The Whites were very distraught over their son's death. In the weeks that passed, they were sitting at the table drinking tea when the wife said to her husband, "Why didn't I think of this before?" "Think of what?" he said. "Why, the monkey's paw. We've only had 1 wish." "1 wish," replied Mr. White. "Well, wasn't that enough?" "No," she says to him, "no, go get the monkey's paw. I'm going to wish our son alive again." Mr. White thinks his wife is crazy and he makes up excuses, but he could not dissuade her. So he reaches on top of a clock, he takes down the monkey's paw, he holds it in his hand, and he says, "I wish our son were alive again," and again the paw seems to come alive in his hand. Mr. White is worried all day. It's been weeks and he doesn't know what he'll see coming to the door if his son were to come alive again. But about 11 o'clock at night, he decided that it was all a coincidence, and he and his wife go to bed. In the wee hours, 2 o'clock in the morning, they hear something taking slow steps toward the door. Mr. White tries to ignore it, but his wife says, wake up, it's her son, he's come back. And she runs down the stairs and she's trying to open the door. Mr. White is frantically looking around for the magic monkey's paw, when his wife stands up on a chair and she unlatches the door, and just at that moment he finds it and he holds it in his hand and he goes, I wish our son were dead again. And at that moment, Mrs. White opens the door and there's nothing but the stillness of the night outside the monkey's paw. Bye.